Next on HBO.
Go behind the scenes of the Western action thriller and starring Viggo Mortensen and Ed Harris. HBO First Look, Appaloosa.
Next on HBO.
Very few Westerns have been as attentive to detail in terms of the period look of the costumes and the props, the behavior, the town itself. You know, it's a mixture of new and old buildings. There's a lot going on. The art design, everything's been done really well.
There's tons of information about this period of time and this part of the country and lawmen and bad guys and all that, so you just pour over everything.
But I think the important thing is to try and be as accurate as you can to how the period was, both in how people speak and how they dress and how they behave. If you're accurate with the costumes, and David Robinson, who's doing our costumes, is, you know, a very good, knowledgeable designer, then I think that they have legs as movies and they will stand up well in the years to come.
Those of us who stayed refused to let that happen.
I think Ed in general wanted it to feel real and very legitimate in the sense of the historical research. You know, it's hard because when you look at period pictures, you're looking at someone who has posed for a photographer. And so you have to use your imagination to say, well, what did this person really look like on an everyday basis? Because there are very few candid photographs.
That'll be fine, I'll be back.
Yes. For Allison, she's a little bit more fashionable. She's coming from St. Louis and probably from a more upper middle class background, so we looked at fashion plates and actual clothes from the 1880s and fashioned her after that. These were all designed and sketched and built in our shop, fitted to her. Everyone else is a little character, even the people in the town, you know, they're a settler or run a printing shop, so we dressed everyone appropriate to their station. Everything's been meticulously aged and beaten down and worn down just to that right degree. Viggo's character is a little more practical, a little more earthy. His colors are sort of browns and greens. Ed's very simple. His character is very classic Prince Albert jacket in charcoal gray, black pants, striped period shirt. He's very no-nonsense, just like his character.
With research and the fact that I had a historian's background, you know, that was just a great project for me to take on, and we went through the effort of getting the correct types of saddles, the correct types of weapons, the correct types of spurs, the badges that the law enforcement men are wearing. And we tried to hit every single detail and make it as close to being historically accurate as possible for 1882.
These saddles, they're new saddles, but they were made on period styles. The Indians are riding more period equipment. In this particular picture, Ed decided that they were off the reservation. They'd have stolen horses, and he wanted them all on saddles instead of bareback and blankets.
We had about 12 Apache warriors and women too, so we had various things that Apaches had in the 1880s. They had some military cast-off belts and weapons. The Springfield 1873, they call it trapdoor carbine, a lance that plays a particularly prominent role in the film. And, you know, we tried to get the Apaches to look like Apaches and not just the typical Hollywood fare.
Hey, Mark.
The 8 gauge is kind of an unusual item. It was a real rare kind of a gun. It was called a punt gun or a market gun. They were used on boats sitting on a swivel, and they were fired into a big flock of ducks or geese for restaurants, for the down for the feathers. So they were a pretty unusual item. The fact he's brought this west with him and uses it in his law enforcement work is pretty effective because it's 50 inches long and it weighs about 11.5 pounds, and it's a pretty formidable weapon.
That shotgun is become almost another character, really. I've never been in any scene as this character where I was on foot that I didn't have that gun. And that's in the bedroom, in the bar, in the restaurant, in the office. It doesn't matter where. It's either in my hands or right next to me. So it's an interesting prop. It's been useful, and it does, because we didn't saw it off, and because it's so huge and heavy, it makes an impression.
Because they're not readily available, the ones that exist are antiques, and we don't really want to fire an antique, so we had one made, built it on a 12-gauge foundation, so it fires 12-gauge blanks, but it looks like an 8-gauge, and we have one that will crack open, and he can load 8-gauge shells in it. And the 8-gauge shells are considerably longer than a 12-gauge, so the audience will certainly see that. These are two different versions of the 1873 Winchester, the famous Winchester 73. This is Ed's weapon here, his rifle. It's a sporting model. It's a little shorter. It's handier to carry horseback.
Get out of here.
Oh, we ain't doing anything.
There's a big difference in my philosophy in doing stunt work and what was done maybe 20 years ago on Westerns.
Quit!
I learned that action was more of a psychological action than anything.
Everett! What the hell do you think you're doing?
Every punch should be like a word of dialogue. It should be moving your story forward. It should not be just a fight for fight's sake, action for action's sake. It's got to move the story forward and create tension and drama, or it's just wasted time.
You pull on me, either one of you, I'll kill you both.
Oh, shit.
In terms of the gunfights, you know, it was, other than the first scene in the saloon where Cole draws and shoots the two guys, the gunfights are really just guys with guns at their side, shooting at each other from fairly close range. And, you know, with those 6-shooters back then, it's not that easy to be accurate, so sometimes you miss, sometimes you hit your target. The thing about Cole was that he was fairly deliberate and didn't miss. Which is talked about a bit in the novel, but not so much in the film. It's more just the way he goes about his business. It was really important that we had the train. Aesthetically, it just adds so much. This big piece of machinery is how people traveled across the country in those days. It was the beginning of the industrial age, really, and things were starting to happen.
Well, it was built in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania at the Baldwin locomotive yard. January 1907 for a lumber company in Texas, and it ran there until the 1960s. 100 years old this year. The boiler, the wheels, the frame, the axles, most all of it is still original, although it's been run for many years. The stuff wears, it gets remachined, and it's serviceable again. It'll go 50. Got 48-inch wheels, and usually it's a mile per hour for every inch of wheel.
It's very involved in it. He's very approachable. He's very meticulous, which is great for me. I appreciate that. I like to bore into the details and flesh them out. Not everybody might know that something's correct or incorrect, but I know, and you know, there's a few people who know, and that's just part of my job.
It's not a revisionist Western. It's not a movie about 1882 seen through our eyes, so much as it is a picture that's without judgment of people behaving as they seem to have behaved back then.
I love that these people are just so human. and that their humanity just spills without being affected in some way or saccharine in some way. It's just real, and I think that's what makes a great film, regardless the genre.